grace of God. And so through the grace of God, everything is possible. And therefore we seek the grace of God. Until grace comes, we do what we can through self-effort. Because as Sri Ramakrishna said, the wind of God's grace is always blowing, but we have to raise our sails. So we have to exert ourselves, but that means to do what's possible. We can't, things that are not possible, we have to learn to forget about. If you say that, oh, no, I've got a husband or wife and children and work and so many duties, how can I lead a spiritual life? Well, no, those things are given. You can't run away from your wife or husband. You can't run away from your children. You can't run away from your job. Those are all parts of your life that you have to fulfill. But you have to learn to fulfill them in a dharmic way. Learn to fulfill them in a way that helps you to attain devotion and spiritual knowledge. And so the things that are part of your life that you can't get away from, don't look on them as obstacles, just look on them as part of the structure of your life around which you have to work. In a river, the river is flowing along. The river doesn't complain about the banks. The banks are what keeps the river going in a direction until it gets to the ocean. Once it gets to the ocean, it doesn't have to worry about banks. Then it's free, it's liberated into the infinite. But the banks are what keep the river going in a particular direction. And so the necessary circumstances of your life, if you're married, if you have children, if you have work that you have to do, if you have parents to take care of, those are all responsibilities that if you leave them, you'll become a lesser person. You'll become adharmic, a lesser person. And so those are the things you have to fulfill in life, but learn to fulfill them in a way that it takes you upward. And then the grace of God will come gradually. The grace of God is always there, as Sri Ramakrishna says, but we have to learn to make ourselves open to it. And so that grace of God can make the impossible possible. Even things that seemed like mountain-high obstacles, they suddenly disappear. But until we feel that grace of God, then we have to do what we can do, what's within our power. So, now coming to the Gita itself, this first chapter is known as Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyayaha. The first chapter known as the yoga of the sadness of Arjuna. So yoga is supposed to take us towards infinite bliss. So what kind of yoga is sadness yoga, Vishada yoga? Yoga which makes us sad. What kind of yoga is that? Well, the idea is not that sadness is the goal, certainly not. But the sadness of Arjuna was what brought the grace of Sri Krishna. It was because Arjuna didn't know what to do, as we'll see when we get into the text. It was because Arjuna was in a quandary. He was facing a dilemma, didn't know where to go, and he felt torn between the duty he had been trained for and the moral imperative not to hurt those whom he loved. And so he was put into a terrible situation, a morally compromising situation. And so it was the sadness that arose out of that caused the Bhagavad Gita to be given. And so the sadness of sadness of Arjuna also is a yoga. That was the yoga that brought the grace of Sri Krishna. So that we have to remember. Everything in the Bhagavad Gita, everything in the Gita applies to our own lives. So when we read the Gita, we have to think, what does this mean to me? What does this mean in the context of my own life? What do I have to do with this? Or what does this have to do with me? And so with the sadness of Arjuna, what does that have to do with us? We find that it's often the difficulties in life, the times when we face difficulties, that we feel closer to God. Why? Because as Swami Swahanandaji used to say, he said, when everything is going well and you're happy, you don't stop and ask, why am I so happy? No, you're just happy and you don't think about anything else. When you're sad, you think, why am I sad? When things are not going well, you think, why are things not going well? What's wrong? What's wrong? Then you become philosophical. And so the sadness of Arjuna is the cause of the grace of Sri Krishna being bestowed upon him. Because he realized that I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. That Sri Krishna gave his grace. Before that, Arjuna had known Krishna all of his life. But it was at the moment of this dilemma, when he was stuck and surrendered to Sri Krishna, that the grace of Sri Krishna was given. And so that's why it's called Vishada Yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yoga, but it's actually our Vishada Yoga, the yoga of sadness which pertains to us. So whenever we face difficulties, whenever we're sad, whenever we face difficulties, make a point of learning to direct your mind towards God. Make a point of directing your mind towards the infinite, towards the self. There's a beautiful song by a Canadian singer named Lorena McKinnon. She sings Celtic music. She sings some other types of music also, but largely Celtic music, a type of music from Ireland and Scotland, and England as well, but nowadays especially Ireland and Scotland. One of her songs is called Dante's Prayer, after Dante, the great Italian poet. She has the refrain in it, cast your eyes on the ocean, cast your soul to the sea. Cast your eyes on the ocean, cast your soul to the sea. That's a beautiful line if we understand the meaning. That is, we're always looking at the surface of life, where the waves of action and reaction are constantly buffeting us. We're constantly being stormed by the rough waves of life. But instead of looking at the waves of the ocean, learn to look at the sea itself, the ocean itself. The ocean itself, the waves mean nothing to it. The infinite depths of the ocean. And so that is God. So learn to cast your eyes on the ocean. Cast your eyes on God. Cast your soul to the sea. Offer your soul into God. So whenever you face difficulties, whenever you face problems, even if you're just feeling sad, learn to turn your mind towards God, because God is the infinite repository of grace, the infinite repository of blessings, the infinite repository of joy and sustenance, etc. So yes, it doesn't mean that immediately your problems will go away, but if you make that habit of every time you feel sad, sorrowful, when you're facing a problem, to turn your mind towards God and surrender yourself towards God, you'll find that gradually that becomes a habit, and that will put a wedge between you and the experience of sadness and loneliness and frustration that comes in the midst of a problem. So the first verse of the first chapter is a very famous verse, which many of you have heard and many of you I'm sure know. It's Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra, the blind king, who was the father of the Kauravas, Duryodhana and the Kauravas, he asks Sanjaya. He asks Sanjay, Kim Akurvata, what did they do? So he's asking in the past tense. He's asking, what did they do? So we know from the Mahabharata, and we can see from this verse, that the Kurukshetra war has already happened. They've already engaged in the war. And so in those days, they didn't have live streaming of the battle scene. And so Dhritarashtra had not seen what happened. And so he's wondering, asking Sanjaya, what happened on the battlefield? Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. Between Mamaka, my sons, Dhritarashtra's sons, the Kauravas, and Pandavaschaiva, and the Pandavas, the sons of King Pandu, who was his brother. So what happened? What happened between my sons and the sons of Pandu? So again, he's asking him. They're sitting at a long distance. They're nowhere close to the battlefield, and this is also it's after the battle has already been engaged in. So he's asking, what did they do? So Sanjaya has the gift of clairvoyance, so he can see at a long distance, and he can see back into time also. So now Sanjaya relates to him what happened on the battlefield, what had already happened on the battlefield. But he gives a live streaming narration, even though it's at a distance and in the past, in the recent past. And so Dhritarashtra, of course, is worried. He wants to know because his sons are engaged in battle. And it's not that he didn't have love for the Pandavas also. They were his nephews. He did have love for them, but because he was blinded by his love for his own sons, the Kauravas, Duryodhana and others, he abandoned the Pandavas. But he knew that what he had done. He knew what he had done. He also knew that virtue lay on the side of the Pandavas. And that on his own sons, whom he favored because they were his own kith and kin, that they were his direct descendants, his own children. He was blind. He favored them and was worried about them. And so Dhritarashtra was concerned. He knew that his own sons were at fault. He knew that virtue was on the side of the Pandavas. He knew that Sri Krishna was fighting on the, not fighting, but advising the Pandavas and on the Pandavas' side, supporting the Pandavas. And he knew the power of virtue, the power of truth, and the power of Sri Krishna. And so he was worried, what has happened to my sons? So he asks about both, but mainly because he's mostly worried about his own sons, what has happened to them. And so when reading the Gita, especially the first chapter is all about just setting the stage for the rest of the Gita. The first chapter doesn't have philosophical teachings, but it does have a lot of psychology. And so when reading the first chapter especially, we should put ourselves emotionally in tune with the different characters who are speaking in order to understand it. So just reading Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta, Yudhsvaha, Pandavas, Mamakas, Pandavas, Chaiva, Kimakurvata, Sanjaya. We can just read it just like words and just go right through it. And if we read it in translation, or if we know Sanskrit and read it in Sanskrit, we understand it and we go on to the next verse. But no, think about what the situation that Dhritarashtra was in, the quandary that he was in, and the moral quandary that he was in, where he knew that his own sons were in the wrong, and that virtue was on the side of the Pandavas. And yet, as a father, he loved his own sons most, and wanted them to succeed, even though he knew that they were in the wrong. And so from that also we have to learn that even as parents, we have to learn to expand beyond just our own family. As Shankaracharya and others, and Swami Vivekananda also and others have said, it's natural for everyone to love their own children. There's no virtue in that. If you don't love your own children, then that's a sin. That's a very bad thing, if you don't love your own children. But to love your own children, there's no special virtue, because even cats and dogs and birds and turtles and monkeys, everybody loves their own children. So that's not, there's nothing special in that. Yes, you should love your own children. If you don't, that's bad. But if you do, that's nothing special. But to be able to expand beyond attachment just to our own kith and kin, and to see the larger human family, that's what Dhritarashtra couldn't do. If he could have done it, he would have given his sons better advice. He would have tried to prevent them entering into war. He would have taken a stand. But Dhritarashtra is one of those characters in the Mahabharata who's a compromised character. He's not a bad person. He's all too human, like the rest of us. And that's his problem, that he's just human. We are called on to be superhuman. We have to be better than human. To be human is basically to be a part of our animal nature. And that's okay, that's what all of us share, but we have to rise above that. And so Dhritarashtra also should have risen above his human nature. He knew enough. He should have been wise enough. He had learned enough. He had experienced enough. He had seen enough to know that there is something better than what he was doing. But he couldn't act on it. He couldn't act on it. He was stuck in attachment to his own children. So now let me go to the first two words of the verse. Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre. Kurukshetre, the field of the Kurus. Already Kurukshetra was a known place at that time. And have any of you been to Kurukshetra? Yes, I also have been to Kurukshetra. It's a worthy place of pilgrimage because of the historical importance. You won't see chariots anymore, but you'll see the place where the battlefield took place. And so for thousands of years, the Mahabharata war took place long before the time of Christ. Christ was 2,000 years ago. The Mahabharata war was long, long before that. In fact, it was probably, if there's any truth to the Puranas and so forth, and the Mahabharata, etc., it was probably at least 3,000 years before Christ. That's when Sri Krishna is said to have left his body. And I think it was 3,102 BC. So more than 3,000 years before Christ, that's more than 5,000 years before us, our present time. Was the time when this took place. And even at that time, 5,000 years ago, Kurukshetra was already a known place. And so Dhritarashtra says Kurukshetra, but he calls it Dharmakshetra, the field of Dharma. The field of Dharma. Why the field of Dharma? Because it was the field where the Dharma was expressed. Dharma, that is religiosity. Dharma is a very wide term. There's not a single term in English that fits the Dharma. Dharma means religiosity. It means righteousness. It means morality. It means the universal moral nature of the universe, that the universe itself is created in a moral way. And so to be in tune with Dharma is to be in tune with the universe and to be in tune with truth. In Vedic times, Dharma was not known as Dharma, it was known as Ritam. Ritam. And so you find in Vedic verses things like Ritam varishyami, satyam varishyami. I will speak the right, I will speak the truth. So truth, satyam, and the ritam, the right, they were closely associated because ritam was the truth expressed in the nature of the universe. And so to be in tune with the ritam was to be in tune with the nature of the universe, to be in tune with the truth of the universe. And it comes from the unitary nature of that out of which the universe has come. The universe has come out of the cosmic Purusha, out of the one reality, the divine existence. And this whole universe has an appearance of that one reality. And it's the oneness of that reality which is the source of this universe and the sustaining presence in this universe that brings about Dharma. What is Dharma? Dharma is to be in tune with the unitary nature of this universe. If I hurt another, I'm hurting myself because the universe is one. If I lie, I'm hurting myself because I'm weaving a web of untruth. If I steal, I'm hurting myself because of the unitary nature of the universe. And so Dharma, which was known in Vedic times as Ritam, is the moral fiber of the universe. And so Dhritarashtra is saying, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre. In this Kurukshetra, which was already famous at that time, it was already known as the field of the Kurus. It was already a known place where this battlefield took place 5,000 years ago, more than 5,000 years ago. He calls it Dharmakshetra. So we have to, again, ask, what does this mean to us? What does this mean to us? This very famous verse of the Bhagavad Gita. This that we see in front of us is our Kurukshetra. This is our Kurukshetra. And so this is our Dharmakshetra. This is the field of Dharma for us, everyday life. The Gita is placed on a battlefield which gives a tremendous dynamic appeal. It's not Sri Krishna and Arjuna washing dishes or cutting the grass or something like that and just talking to each other. No, it's in the midst of a battlefield, a life and death situation. But our own lives are the same. Our own lives are the same. If it's true on the battlefield, it's true right here and right now in the decisions that we have to face. Arjuna was faced with a decision, as we'll see as we come forward. And we also, every day, we're faced with decisions. And so we have to learn to make this our Kurukshetra, the world in which we live, the world of our own experience, the world of our own relationships and work and family and society. We have to make that our Kurukshetra. And we have to make our Kurukshetra into a Dharmakshetra, the field for the exercise of Dharma. Why is Karma Yoga important? It's because Karma Yoga teaches us how to interact here. And none of us can avoid interacting here. We all live in the midst of society. We work in the midst of society. We have the advantages of society. The roads are maintained, the water is provided, the sewage is provided. There's so many things we're getting from society. And so we're all dependent on this web of human society. And so in the midst of that, where we live, where we're interdependent with other beings, we have to learn how to live in a dharmic way, which means, again, in a way that respects the unitary nature of the universe, that this whole universe is founded in one unitary being, Sat, one existence, and all just different waves in the ocean of divine existence, in the ocean of God. As Sri Ramakrishna used to see. Sri Ramakrishna actually would see that everything here is just a wave in the ocean of God. The infinite ocean of God, and that all of us are the tiny little waves in the infinite ocean of God. So we have to learn to see the universe in such a way that we can lead a dharmic life, so that we see that our actions matter. Even our small actions matter. There's no action which is so small that it doesn't matter. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say that the expert dancer never takes a false step. So we also have to learn how to gradually, little by little, have to learn how to dance in the world like an expert dancer, so that we don't take false steps. And we do that, we learn how to do that, which is it takes a lifetime to learn how to do that. It's not easy, it takes a lifetime. But gradually we learn how to make our decisions and how to act in such a way that we are fulfilling Dharma. If you become more unselfish, if you become more accepting of others, if you become more loving, more forgiving, etc., then gradually you'll begin to see that you feel connected to the universe. The more selfish you make yourself, then the more cut off from the universe you become. If you learn to open yourself to the universe, you'll feel connected, and you'll feel that you're connected to Dharma also. And then you won't want to hurt other people. You'll be very sensitive about the feelings of other people. Yes, sometimes, whether as a parent or as a citizen or as a worker or as a boss or whatever, sometimes you have to be harsh. And that's a given. Sri Ramakrishna said sometimes, like a snake, you have to hiss. But he said, don't bite. Just learn to hiss. Don't bite. And so sometimes we have to be strong. We have to show strength, etc. But we need to learn to do even that in a dharmic way. So, dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, samaveta, yuyutsavaha. These fighters, those who are desirous to fight, yuyutsavaha, yuyutsu, those who want to fight, samaveta, those who are gathered, those who want to fight and who have come gathered here. So remember in the Kurukshetra war, that people from all over the known world had come. Kings from distant Afghanistan, what's now Afghanistan, at that time it was part of India. different distant Afghanistan, people from the plain of the Ganges, the Gangetic plain, people from kings from the king from Varanasi, from all over. Kings and soldiers, fighters had come, desirous to fight on the Kurukshetra battlefield. Now that also is a strange thing, to think that people are yuyutsus, that they want to fight. But that you find that there is something in human beings, especially in men, the male part of the race, that has this, when they're faced with a fight, and if they've been trained for it, that they want to engage. They want to engage. It's like sports, football, real football, which we call soccer in America, or American football, which almost never touches the foot. Basketball, baseball, cricket, badminton, all of these sports are really ritualized battles. Sports are nothing but battles, physical sports, nothing but battles. Even chess is a battle, but chess is mental. But physical sports are physical battles, but ritualized, where people are not supposed to get hurt. You may get injured in sports also, but that's not the purpose. You're not trying to injure somebody. And so just as people engage in sports, and before the coming of the sporting event, the players begin to pump themselves up with enthusiasm. So warriors also, before a battle, pump themselves up with enthusiasm until they become yuyutsus. They want to fight. And so those who have gathered here on this Kurukshetra, which is a Dharmakshetra, what happened, O Sanjaya? So then Sanjaya says in the second verse, Sanjaya vacha drishtva tu pandavanekam vyudham duryodhanastara acharyam upasangamya raja vachanam abravit. So here it says, drishtva tu pandavanekam vyudham duryodhanastara. Duryodhana then, having seen the Pandavas and those allies of the Pandavas, having seen them, then Duryodhana Acharyam Upasangamya, having approached his teacher, Dronacharya. Drona was the Acharya both for the Pandavas and for the Kauravas. And so it's one of the interesting phenomena in the Mahabharata battle, that you find this intimate connection between people on both sides, and love between the people on both sides, and yet they're brought to the field of battle. So Raja Vachanam Abravit, the king Duryodhana said. So the king Duryodhana, seeing the Pandavas arrayed on the field, then he approaches Drona and says these words. Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Jamum Vyudham Drupadaputrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. So he says, O teacher, O Dronacharya, see this vast army of the sons of Pandu. See this vast army of the Pandavas. Vyudham Drupadaputrena, who are arranged for battle by the son of Drupad, your disciple. So, O teacher, see this vast army of the sons of Pandu arrayed for battle by the son of Drupada, your intelligent disciple, the Dhimata. Dhimata. So, your intelligent disciple. So, why does he say that? He's pinching Drona, his own teacher. You have to remember that Duryodhana, he's not a virtuous person. He's full of jealousy, he's full of hatred, he's full of fear, he's full of all of the negative emotions. And so he sees the Pandavas arrayed, and so he goes to his teacher Drona, who is one of the commanders of the army, goes to him and says, oh, see, the Pandavas arrayed here in front of us, led by your disciple, Drupada, meaning that I doubt whether you are really on my side. The Pandavas are led by Drupada. And he is your intelligent disciple, not just your disciple, not just your student. He's your intelligent, dhimat. He's your intelligent disciple. So he's sowing the idea, showing Drona that I don't really trust you. You may be commanding my army, but I don't think I can trust you. So then it goes on with 5 and 6. So what happened to 4? Oh, there it is. 4, 5, and 6 are together. So I'll chant them together and explain them together. Atra shura maheshwasa bhimarjuna samayudhi yuyudhano viratascha drupadascha moharatah धृष्टकेतुश्चेकितान काशीराजश्च वीर्यवान् पुरुजित् कुन्दिभोजश्च शैब्यश्च नरपुङ्गवः युधामन्युश्च विक्रान्त उत्तमौजाश्च वीर्यवान् सौभद्रो द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्व एव महारथाः. So he says here in this army of the Pandavas, again telling Duryodhana, pointing to the Pandavas. Here in this army of the Pandavas are the heroes wielding great bows, the great archers, who in battle are the equals of Bhima and Arjuna, such as Yuyudhana, Satyaki, and Virata, and the Maharathas, and the Maharatha Drupada. So here, not only do we have to fight with Arjuna and Bhima, but there are many soldiers here who are their equals. So we have to fight with the best of the soldiers, Arjuna and Bhima, but not just them. If there were just 2 of them, then okay, and the others were run-of-the-mill soldiers, and then we might be okay. But others who are the equals of Bhima and Arjuna, and then he names some of them. Drishtaketu, Chekitana, and the valiant king of Kashi, Varanasi. Purujit, Kuntibhoja, and Shaibya, the choicest among men. So again, he's recognizing all of the great qualities of those who are opposed. And for 2 reasons. One reason, because again, he wants to point to the Drupada that we are in trouble. We have all of these great soldiers arrayed against us, and I don't trust you. I don't trust you because some of them are your disciples, and you're intelligent and great disciples. And so look at all of these people that we are arrayed against. And the other reason he's saying this is because of his own fear. So he's afraid, that's why he approaches Drona, and he's also doubtful about Drona, and so he wants to make Drona feel bad. He wants to make Drona aware of the fact that I know that you are not trustworthy, because these are great warriors and they are also your disciples. And so in these verses he's again setting the stage with Drona for the battle, and also sowing his own defeat, because by showing that he doesn't trust his own commander, then he's already making conscious and making clear the divide between them. And so if you have a commander of your army you're about to fight, the last thing you want to do is to emphasize the fact that you don't trust him. The last thing you want to do is to emphasize the fact that there's distance between you. Your commander is too late to change now. And so the thing a wise commander, a wise general like Duryodhana should have done was to make the best of the situation. It's not going to change now. And at this point, when you're about to start killing each other, then to weaken your commanding officer by showing, I don't really trust you, that just shows both the wicked intelligence of Duryodhana and the poor intelligence, his own poor intelligence. He should have been able to control himself to realize that now we're going into battle, we have to make best of a bad situation, but he couldn't do that. And that you find is psychologically very apt, very correct. That we find in our own lives. We find it in ourselves, and we see it in other people also, that even when we know what is best in the situation, sometimes we want to give a pinch. or a barb or something to hurt the other person, even though we know it's not going to help me, but I can't help it. I can't help it. I still want to hurt them. And so, again, look at the characters in context of our own life as we are. And so then in verse 7 it says, Asmakam tu vishishtaye tan nibodha tvijottama nayaka mama sanyasya sanyartham tan bravimite. So asmakam tu vishishtaye tan nibodha tvijottama. Oh, best of the Brahmins, because Drona, though he was a military teacher, he was a Brahmin. So, oh, best of the Brahmins, know those among us who are of extraordinary quality also, those who are Vishishta, those who are special among us. So I've told you, I've pointed out the Pandavas, but now he wants to come back and brag about his own troops. And that also in order to bolster his own confidence, because he's lost his confidence already, as we see from the previous verses. He's lost his confidence. So now he's trying to regain confidence because the battle is about to begin. So, O best among the Brahmins, please be apprised of those who are foremost among us, the commanders of my army, Nayaka. Know the Nayakas of my army. I speak of them to you by way of example. So let me tell you about them by way of example. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samiting Jayaha Ashwathama Vikarnascha Saumadattir Jayadratha. Yes, that's, yeah, of course it's Jayadratha. So the printing is very unclear here. So these among our soldiers who are special, they are your venerable self, Bhavan. You yourself are among these special warriors. Because of course Drona was not just a warrior, but he was a teacher of the best of the warriors. So it includes you, it includes Bhishma and Karna and Kripa, who is ever victorious, Kripa who is ever victorious in battle. It includes Ashwathama, Vikarna, Somadatti, and Jayadratha. So all of these recognize on our side also, we have great soldiers too. So on the one hand, he is fearful and he's in doubt about his own situation. But on the other hand, he's proud of the people that the accomplishment that he has in gathering such great warriors on his side as well. And then 9 says, Anye ja bahava shura madarthe tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharana sarve yuddha visharadaha. There are many other heroes who also have dedicated their lives. Many other heroes on our side who have dedicated their lives for my sake, for me. So again, he's full of pride, thinking that it's all about me. It's all for my sake, and all of these people have come and ready to sacrifice themselves for me. Who wield various kinds of weapons and missiles. Nana Shastra Praharana, who wield all types of weapons and missiles. Sarve Yuddha Visharadahu, all of whom are skilled in battle. All of them are skilled in battle, and they have various types of weapons. So they're skilled in battle, and also they are well armed. So both of these things. And then he says, Aparyaptam tarasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam Paryaptam tatvidame tesham balam bhishmabhirakshitam. So here there's a difference of opinion among different interpreters, because aparyaptam and paryaptam can be interpreted in two different ways. Paryaptam can be interpreted as limited and aparyaptam as unlimited. And so taking that interpretation, which Madhusudana takes here, it means that this army of ours, under the complete protection of Bhishma, Bhishma Bhirakshitam, completely protected by Bhishma, is unlimited. So this army of ours is unlimited. But this army of the enemies, under the protection of Bhima, is limited. But some have taken it to mean paryaptam means complete, and aparyaptam incomplete. And so those like Swami, what was his name? Who has a wonderful translation of the Gita that he did with Sister Nivedita. It's not coming to me right now, though I know him quite well. It's on the tip of my tongue. But he interpreted this way, that our army is incomplete, but their army is complete, meaning he was, again, expressing doubt. But most interpreters have taken it to mean that no, our force is unlimited and theirs is limited. So again, he's beginning to brag. So taking it in that way, he's bragging about his own army and the fact that we will be able to win this battle. Take some pleasure. Okay, so verse 11 says, Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagavavastitaha bhishmameva bhirakshantu bhavanta sarva eva hi. However, venerable sirs, now he's turned his back on Drona. He's turned his back. First he insults Drona, then he brags about his own soldiers, and says,